So I'm going to start with Alice Brandenburg, who is our first presenter. She has the hard job of doing that. And it's been a joy to work with you this year, Alice, and see your project develop from the idea and the concept and the personal connection that you have to camping and to art education and bringing these disciplines together through an amazing website that she has created that she's going to be sharing. And I think this is a great example of public scholarship and bringing your passion together. So thank you for doing that, and I would like to introduce Alice, whose project is titled Beyond Tie-Dye T-Shirts and Friendship Bracelets, A History of Art Education in U.S. Summer Camps, Arts and Crafts. Thank you.
Can you hear me? The Arts and Crafts program has a vital role to play of its own in camp. If properly organized and presented, it can result in the satisfaction of everyone's unborn urge to create. It can contribute effectively to the formation of a well-rounded personality. It can provide a camper of every age with pleasurable activities and wholesome, meaningful recreation while they're learning specific skills. Above all, however, it should aim at imparting freely exploratory attitudes towards the creative use of many media, and its overriding purpose should be the stimulation and encouragement of self-expression. These words are pretty powerful, right? I think that maybe we can all agree that this captures a strong understanding of what arts and crafts is in summer camps. But as much as I'd like to claim them as my own, they were actually written in an article titled An Approach to Creative Arts and Crafts for Camping Magazine in 1960, over 60 years ago. My name is Alice Brandenburg. My capstone research project is titled Beyond Tie-Dye T-Shirts and Friendship Bracelets, the History of Art Education in Summer Camp Arts and Crafts. Beginning in the early 1860s, U.S. children spent their summers making friendship bracelets, swimming in lakes, and singing songs around a campfire. And it would be nearly impossible to picture the typical American summer camp without arts and crafts, as these activities have been and continue to be a fundamental component to these spaces. My project is a historical timeline website that I created illustrating the development and implementation and evolution of art education as they coexisted with United States history. This project was motivated by the present lack of information on the history of summer camp arts and crafts. To bridge this gap in understanding, I conducted a historical investigation on the relationship between art education and U.S. organization summer camps, including Boy Scouts, Girl Scouts, YMCA, YWCA, and 4-H. Through contextualizing this archival information, I established a clear chronological grasp of the key people and significant places to this history to demonstrate major contributions of art education to summer camp arts and crafts programs, and to provide concrete evidence to support their continued existence as an integral component in these spaces. I believe that a problem within camp is the current lack of recognition for arts and crafts programs and their significant contributions to education since their creation in the early 1860s and 70s. Evidence from leading organizations in the field of art education and organized camping both demonstrated a deep need for a deeper understanding of valuable educational and creative qualities that visual arts programs have. Currently, there is no special interest group housed in the National Art Education Association, specifically for summer camp arts and crafts educators, despite the 20+ existing groups. And in 2020, the American Camp Association, the leading accredited association for camp owners and professionals organized youth camping, released their strategic plan for 2020-2024, which included efforts to advocate for children and youth by establishing camp as a vital and enriching developmental and educational experience. Despite these intentions, though, the organization's website currently contains less than 5 articles concerning arts and crafts, which pales in comparison to the extensive number of written works for programming areas like rec or STEM. As it stands today, the lack of understanding surrounding this programming has led to educators involved not being supported, funded, or celebrated in the ways that I think that they deserve, and this is potentially detrimental to their continuation in this field. I propose addressing this problem by creating a historical timeline that explores the central research question: what is the historical evolution of arts and crafts programs in summer camps in the United States from 1870 to 1999, and what contemporary historical developments were influential in their creation, or in their conception, implementation, and progression? To complete this work, I followed these following steps. I gathered materials, information, and ephemera centered on summer camp arts and crafts and other related topics. I compiled and sorted data through historical research methods and other data analysis strategies. I created a timeline and a website. And finally, I'm sharing this information with you all now. The literature review for this research consisted of 6 central themes, which I've included here. I used a framework of theoretical reasoning, or historical reasoning, to support this research, and this framework emphasizes the fact that when learning history, we acquire knowledge of the past, and then use this knowledge to interpret phenomena from the past and the present. Historical reasoning involves a range of interrelated activities, including asking historical questions, using sources, contextualization, argumentation, using substantive concepts, and then also using meta-concept. And now to the project. This is the homepage of my website, artandcamps.com. This is the menu page on the site, which kind of gives you a layout idea of how it's organized. It has 4 groups, and then the arts and crafts evolution, as well as about the project and myself, and then also a contact page. Born out of American industrialization, anti-modern anxiety, and a desire for life outdoors, summer camps served a few thousand youth beginning in the early 1870s to the 1920s. Eventually, camps would begin to include arts and crafts, primarily in girls' camps and camps for Jewish children. The first significant inclusion of this type of programming happened at Laura Mattoon's Camp Kehonka in 1902. Campers participated in ceramics, weaving, chair caning, bookbinding, jewelry making, and woodworking. As the years progressed, so did the creation of prominent youth organizations like the YMCA, Boy Scouts of America, the YWCA, Girl Scouts of America, Campfire Girls, and 4-H. Because of the fact that most of these organizations were segregated, summer camps for children of color, like the Harlem Summer Camps that were funded by the Fresh Air Funds movement, also began to emerge. Art education was also in its infancy at this time. By 1883, the National Education Association had established the Department of Art Education, and many public and private schools taught visual art. Many educators began writing and publishing for the first time, giving other teachers and the general public suggestions for teaching art. School Arts Magazine by Davis Press, a prominent art education publisher in the early 20th century and still today, described that applied arts, manual arts, and handicraft were most popular with youth, something that camp directors began to observe and then include in their camps. Through data collected from A Summer at a Girls' Camp by Anna Worthington Cole from 1919 and the Handbook of Summer Camp from 1926, we know that a large number of these camps, primarily girls' camps, included arts and crafts on their schedules. And some of the activities that they participated in included beadwork, painting, block printing, wool embroidery and needlecraft, knitting, studies in color and design, wood carving, rug making, fabric dyeing, leather work, photography, sewing, and costume making. In a 1929 Girl Scout manual, a few of the suggested activities to earn a craftsman's symbol badge included tie-dyeing, crochet, cross-stitch, applique, and china painting, and recommended the School Arts Magazine article, Arts Crafts for Beginners. From the time of World War I to the Great Depression, many summer camps' development slowed as they transitioned from a primarily youth space to a food distribution or aid relief center. Many camps, like Lloyd Burgess Sharp, general welfare of the children attending improved drastically. Arts and crafts were also a big part of both the boys and the girls sections of this camp. Art educators also looked to progressive education and ties to community life. They found financial and societal support through the Works Progress Association of the New Deal, via a heightened interest in the artists. Many visual artists turned educators, like Augusta Savage, helped implement a new type of community art programming specifically for youth of color, with opportunities to engage in new mediums and with professional artists. In 1935, the Camp Directors Association became the American Camp Association, or the ACA, and faced many challenges in this transition leading up to World War II. The group embarked on numerous philosophical and foundational debates, including conversations that directly impacted arts and crafts. We can see evidence of this impact in the Handbook of Summer Camps from 1935, which included a section describing the significance of arts and crafts and their place in camp, something that was not previously included in the 1926 edition. There's also a significant increase in the number of camps and states promoting these nationwide. With the more widespread integration of arts and crafts, also came the incorporation of Eurocentric and stereotyped American Indian and indigenous cultural practices. The complexities of this period illustrate the challenging conversation of appropriation and appreciation most commonly seen through camp-wide craft activities like creating totem poles, headdresses, and costumes, the American Indian Counselor Training Program, and other art educators like Dorothy Dunn's art classes at the Santa Fe Indian School in the 30s. Campers at this time were still participating in arts and crafts activities from years before, but began to expand on them in new, more creative and adventurous ways. Details about the popular activities are abundant in Camping Magazine, which was published in the 1930s. I found over 65 articles about arts and crafts activities and programs from 1930 to 1946. And in summary, the expansion of materials and access to those materials fluctuated throughout the war. Foundational activities from years past tripled in size, adding new mediums and techniques like soap and candle making, paper mache, metal and clay casting, felt embroidery and crafts, boondoggles, which are now known as the Rex lace lanyards and keychains, scrapbooking, shadow graphs, silkscreen, and linoleum printing. A Girl Scout Camp Director Guide from 1946 captures this really optimistic attitude towards arts and crafts in summer camps for this era and then for the years that were to follow. They described, "A yoke around the neck of a traditional arts and crafts program of camp is the desire of girls and often their parents for something to take home. It should be remembered that the most precious treasures a camper can take with her are not the kind that can be wrapped in paper. The most valuable things a camper gets out of a good arts and crafts program are appreciation, enjoyment, and creative expression." During the 40s and 50s, organized camp underwent significant growth and development. It's estimated that 1 in 6 American children attended the 12,000 summer camps that were in operation in the early 50s. After World War II, the need for racial integration in youth camping became more and more evident, as the majority of the summer camps existing were only for white children. In 1945, the ACA started to promote intercultural, interracial, interclass, and interfaith camps as a means to develop democratic character, tolerance, and acceptance of difference. However, it wasn't until the civil rights movement of the 60s and intentional action from camp director leadership that meaningful progress was made towards interracial camping, and not without pushback from local and regional youth organizations across the country. The Cold War and the space race of the mid-50s caused massive investment in primary and secondary education at this time. This surge of funds caused radical transformation in teacher training and educational publications that focused on the arts. In the 60s, art educators sought to justify their place in the U.S. education system by introducing a more expansive curriculum with the goal of helping reform society through the education of young people. By the 50s, arts and crafts had cemented their place in camps. However, the new challenge was maintaining that place and pushing for more time, resources, and understanding in the camp environment. A popular way to do this was to emphasize creativity, which is a widespread concept in the atomic age. Between 1947 and 1968, Camping Magazine published more than a dozen articles explicitly about cultivating creativity in camps, and many of these came directly from arts and crafts program. At this time, camp leaders and educators began to examine key components to operating an efficient arts and crafts program, defining and recognizing the value, and then also ways to integrate arts into all parts of camp. The Camping Magazine article, Art in the Camp Environment, from 1953 stated, "At a time in modern life when we see the creative person shrinking, the new craft shop can take its integral place. If the camp environment is not used for creative growth in the arts and crafts program, no round experience is possible." Evidence provided through advertisements, scout handbooks, director guides, and many other things demonstrate the popular activities that are happening at this time. The staff in these environments provided new creative and exciting projects that went beyond the traditional crafts of prefabricated kits of years past, and then some of these activities are included here. The 70s were a crucial moment in our country's history as many influential laws were put into place to protect women, people with disabilities, Indigenous Americans, and many others. Legislations like Title IX, the Individuals with Disabilities Education Act, the Indian Self-Determination Act, the Refugee Act, and the Civil Rights Act served as solid steps to creating equality and equity in camp spaces. The 60s and 70s, societal changes that were happening, like the sexual revolution, led to a more rebellious youth culture in summer camps, which resulted in increased safety regulations. Camping advocates sought to recreate this rustic lifestyle in the 80s and 90s as a direct response to societal advances on youth. The HIV/AIDS epidemic of the 80s and 90s also challenged camps' traditional heteronormative agendas. And summer camps have been and continue to be an important space for all youth to explore and develop gender identity and sexuality. Eco-literacy and character education programs were also huge at this time. Art educators introduced new methods of teaching like TAB, teaching for artistic behaviors, and discipline-based art education at this time, and were faced with severe cuts in funding from state and federally mandated standardized curriculums and assessments. There's a surprising lack of online resources actually about summer camps from this time, which made it a little bit challenging to find information. But through Boy Scout and Girl Scout handbooks, archived camp commercials, and other things, they provide an idea of what was popular at this time. For example, a Brownie and Girl Scout guide from 1997 included the chapter The World of the Arts, where art teachers were a recommended resource for Girl Scout troops to learn more about art. And a few of these activities that they suggested included paint and string art, collage color reels made from magazine clippings, matchstick mosaics, and Play-Doh sculptures. A Boy Scout Weeblo Scout book from 1983 also included a similar title called The Artist, where activities like oil painting, creating designs and patterns with found objects and sculptures from chicken wire were also recommended. During this time, also, Camping Magazine switched from how-to-do articles and moved towards engaging conversations about more worldly diverse topics and bureaucratic issues. Arts and crafts-related content and other program-specific articles were slowly phased out. This research found that summer camp arts and crafts activities have been closely linked to art education in the United States from 1870 to 1999, as described in these three findings. Camp arts and crafts programs followed emerging trends from art education to create and facilitate engaging activities for all generations of youth. And these programs have evolved alongside changes in art education. Shown here is the summer camp arts and crafts evolution diagram that I created and spoke of previously. I used the information that I collected to piece together this complex graphic that shows the interconnection between these activities and materials throughout this history. The image on the left shows a more zoomed in section of the chart, and the right shows a page on the website where I also included a text version of this information, as well as two separate pages to download it with a more zoomed in version. True hope for this project is that it lives and grows beyond itself, and I feel deeply that this history deserves to be shared and celebrated. And the website hopefully will act as a living work to create continued dialogue with this history. And because of this, I've added a contact page so anyone can help me correct something or add something to it. This research also pulled from select youth organizations, which primarily centers white upper middle class perspectives. These are some sections that I've included that offer a different perspective, and going forward, I believe that more research in this area should be included. I could not have completed this research without the countless educators who've come before me, paving the way for arts and crafts, or the millions of young people who spent their summers at camps. Using text, imagery, videos, graphics, and more, this research shares the history in a way that's accessible to all interested in the topic and provides deeper understanding to the educational value of camp arts and crafts. If I have time, I'd like to close with a very brief excerpt from an article in Camping Magazine from 1952 titled Fun, Work, and Adventure in Crafts. The arts and crafts staff must be quick-witted and clever, for they must be able to answer a host of difficulties and problems. To provide materials, always just having the right things. To come up with new ideas in such a way that the children think that they're their own and proceed with execution by themselves. To solve frustrating situations like threading the little needle eye, ending off a braided belt, showing how to salvage a cracked or lopsided clay bowl. To say, of course, it can be done. Let's think of a way. This is what the counselors do. The craft counselors are always busy, for they're in the world of making things. There's always more to be done. Children's eagerness and imagination, once awakened, may take you anywhere. Thank you.